the alarm bells are going off. Like, queen e1 is just a weird move. I understand that you want to get out of this pin, maybe even go knight e5, but it definitely feels like a move like c4 is a lot more thematic. Like, white almost always wants to get c4 in. This is round 3 of the Lehigh Valley Open. I beat a 900 in round 1. I lost to a 2200 in round 2, and now I'm hoping to bounce back and continue with more wins in this round. I'm playing a 1450 in this round, and yeah, I'll just hop right into it. The time control was game in 30, delay 5, so very quick tournament, but it's still classical, regular USCF rated, and yeah. So he played d4, I played d5, and now he played knight of 3. So he's not committing yet to the queen's gambit or a fianchetto setup, but he does end up going e3 first. So he's not playing a London. And after c5, this is definitely a principled way to approach this opening. Like, he didn't try to take more control of the center with c4. He didn't develop his bishop out to control the center. So e3 is a relatively passive move, but not bad by any means. But, you know, if your opponent plays a bit passively, then you should strike the center, and that's what c5 does. He plays b3, and I know that in this opening, it's often a good idea to clarify the center, and then put your knight out to c6, and play bishop f4 or bishop f5 or bishop g4. Both are good. And already black is, you know, doing completely fine in the opening. There are no issues. So my opponent plays knight bd2. It's a bit weird to develop your knight to that square, but I guess the idea is that, like, he wants to push c4 in the future, and doesn't want his knight to blocking his c-pawn, and he knows he wants to have his bishop on b2. But it is definitely weird to already commit the knight there, but it's not bad by any means. It's just a normal move. I play bishop g4, so now if he plays a random move like bishop d3, I could probably take this pawn. And in this case, sometimes you see that you cannot take the d4 pawn, because after knight takes, and bishop b5 check, black sometimes has to give back their queen, and white is winning. But in this case, I have knight d7, and I'd be up a queen at this point. Well, a queen for two minor pieces. But this is still winning. So that's if he gets lazy. Then I have this move, knight takes d4, utilizing the pin. But in this case, he plays bishop b2 to guard the d4 pawn, and it's already a move that he already wanted to play. And I play e6, opening the door for my bishop to develop. And he plays a3. He probably doesn't have to play a3. It's not like I have any threat. Maybe what he didn't like was after bishop d3, I have knight g4 check. But even he has this check to win more time. But even if he doesn't, like, he could, this is not a threat. He can just go bishop b2, and I'm not threatening the c4 pawn. And if I go rook c8, probably just go c4, and white is doing it totally fine here, I think. Although it does feel a little bit weird, like this d4 pawn feels a little bit loose after pawn takes and pawn takes, but he still has two defenders on it, so everything is probably fine for white here. So I don't think a3 was necessary, but it's probably a move that white wants to play anyway, so it probably doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So he plays a3, I play bishop e7. I was considering bishop d6, but I didn't like how sometimes the bishop on d6 could get in the way. Like, for example, how should I put this? Sometimes knight e5 hops can be more annoying with the bishop on d6, because I will not have the option to play knight takes e5. Like, for example, just to illustrate the point here, knight e5 now would be a little bit annoying, because the bishop on b2 guards the knight on e5, and I never have the option to take on e5, because now this is a pawn fork. It's probably not something I need to worry about. Like Like the knight on e5 is not like it's winning the game immediately for white or anything. But I think it's just a stylistic choice, whether it be bishop d6 or bishop e7. Also, maybe it could get hit with c5. Maybe, probably not though. Probably, I'm just gonna take on this case in this case, and it's probably nothing to worry about. But that's also something else to consider as well. So I played bishop e7. I thought it made sense. He played bishop d3, developing his bishop, and I castle. He castles, and I play rook c8. This is a half-open file. I'm targeting his c pawn, and if he does play the move c4, then I can take, maybe play bishop b6 or queen b6 or queen a5, and I'm going to put my other rook on the d file. And this is a classic hanging pawn structure where he has these two pawns that are not defended by any neighbor pawns, and then I have my pawns that can restrict his two pawns that are more advanced. So a very classic, well-known structure, I guess you could say. And I'm going to put my rooks on these open files. I'm going to target his pawns, and he's going to try to defend his pawns and play around his pawns. And, he has more space, but, there's a lot of play in this position. So that was my idea. I thought my rook belonged on c8 to begin with, so I thought it made a lot of sense. But he plays queen e1, and instantly, like, the alarm bells are going off. Like, queen e1 is just a weird move. I understand that you want to get out of this pin, maybe even go knight e5, but it definitely feels like a move like c4 is a lot more thematic. Like, white almost always wants to get c4 in these types of structures, like almost always. So maybe even c4, and if queen a5, maybe even queen c2. And he's going to put his rooks behind his pawns, maybe, or maybe even the rooks on the open files. So playing like this seems a lot more natural. But he plays queen e1 instead, and I play queen b6. And I don't have a threat as of now. But I assume he really wants to go knight e5. But he can't do that because of knight takes d4. And that's just a free pawn. He only has one defender, and I had two attackers. And he could take this, but, I have no issues in this position. I'm just up a pawn. And more than that, I'm also threatening the c2 pawn as well with my rook and knight. So he plays c3, which is so ugly. Like, this is a very, very ugly move. And now this b3 pawn is really loose as well. So he played a3 and c3. So now this, b3 pawn is weak. And I just played knight takes, or bishop takes knight. With the idea that he has to take with the g pawn. And now he has these doubled isolated pawns. And my idea was that I'm most likely going to go bishop d6 and play for e5. Because... Oh, and the reason why he has to take with the pawn, well, he actually took back with the knight in the game, just give me the b3 pawn. Like, he just straight up gave me the pawn. If he does not want to beat down material, he has to take with the pawn. Which may not feel that bad, because you can go king h1 and rook g1 and try to attack black in this position. So I think he had to just take with the pawn there, and you have a messed up structure. But my idea was that after he takes with the pawn, I'm going to go bishop d6, and I'm going to try to play e5 and open up the position this way. Like, for example, queen e3, then e5, and if takes, I could probably just take, and then play this move, attack the bishop, attack the pawn. Although, who knows, maybe I don't want to double up his pawns. I don't have to do that. I could probably just take back here. And he can develop my pawns, but maybe that's okay. And the position goes on. And maybe I can even go knight h5, knight f4. Maybe that is even a better plan. Knight h5, knight f4. And life is looking pretty good. Life is looking pretty good for me. So I wasn't scared if he did take back with the pawn. But the thing is, like I said, he took back with a knight, just give me the b3 pawn. And now I'm just up a pawn. It's a little bit scary, though, because now after rook b1, he can move his bishop out of the way. and attack this b7 pawn. But I find a nice resource, knight a5, defending my pawn. And if he goes bishop a1, then I'm going to take on a3. And if he takes on, or then he moves back to c1, well, now his bishop is no longer guarding the c3 pawn, and this is what happens in the game. So now I'm up 2 pawns, and I think in this position he needs to go queen e2. He needs to go queen e2 because now I cannot go bishop takes a3, because now after bishop takes, queen takes, rook a1, and I don't have that many squares to defend my knight. For example, queen b4, then rook c1. And how do I defend my knight on a5? If I go here, then maybe he could play this move. Maybe this is just a draw. Oh, in this case, oh wait, I give up my queen for the 2 rooks. And this is probably good for me. So I actually didn't think about that ahead of time. I thought if he played queen e2, I thought I was going to lose my knight on a5, but apparently I'm not with this move queen c3. So maybe there was actually nothing to worry about. But instead he plays a worse move, queen d1, and now his rooks won't be connected after this bishop on c3 moves. So I do end up taking on a3, and I thought for a long time on this move because a lot of my pieces are loose. Like this knight is only defended by my queen, this bishop is only defended by my queen, this pawn on b7 is only defended by my knight. So it feels like I'm up 3 pawns. Like I literally did my best like Pac-Man impression with all of my pieces. You know, waka 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 waka. I'm eating everything. But my pieces are pretty loose. So that's why I thought for a long time on these moves because I was really worried. I had to make sure that bishop d2 wasn't winning for him, and it's not, because if bishop d2, it undefends the bishop on d3, and it's a trade at the end of the day, and I'm still up 3 pawns with a very awesome position. So he ends up playing bishop f4, and yeah, I have nothing to worry about here. I play a6 because he has no threats. If he plays rook a1, for example, I could probably just play b5, and once again, there are no threats in this position. At least I don't think there are any threats. I think I should still be fine. I mean, if the queen was on e2, then maybe there would be more threats, but nope. He plays knight e5, blundering another pawn, except it's not a blunder because a bishop takes h7 and queen takes d5. That would be very, very bad. So I of course do not take this pawn. I play b5, and now my knight is no longer tied to the edge of the board. Before, like in this position, my knight, I would love to play the move knight c4 at some point, but there's his rook takes b7, and now his rook is really active. I'm only up 2 pawns instead of 3, which is still probably winning, but why am I allowing his rook to get to the 7th rank? That's not very good at all. So that's why I play a6 and b5. That was my idea. So now my knight can now move freely. He goes queen f3, trying to add in another attacker on the king and start an attack. So what's really interesting is that usually when I'm up, 2 pawns or 3 pawns, like a lot of pieces are traded by that point. But most of the minor pieces are still on the board. Both of the rooks are on the board, and the queens are on the board. So it definitely feels a bit tricky. And like I said, all of my pieces feel loose. Like my queen is the only defender of these two minor pieces. So I had to be very, very careful here. One thing that the queen on f3 does, though, it does set up a little trap here. I wanted to play knight c4, but now I can't because of bishop takes h7, and my queen is hanging once again. But one thing that this move also does is that it no longer x-rays the d4 pawn, so I can so I can just take it. So I play queen takes d4, and he plays queen g3 now. And like I said, if he goes bishop takes h7 now, trying to win the bishop on a3, well, that's just a trade. He won a pawn, but he's just trading pieces, and actually it's worse than a trade because he's just losing another piece at this point. So he played queen g3, and threatening bishop h6. But I just go knight h5, attacking the queen, attacking the bishop. He plays queen h3, so if I take, that's just checkmate. So I take the bishop on f4 with my queen. with the idea that after queen takes h5, I'm going to play g6. And this all happens in the game. I was a little bit worried here. I had to calculate for a little bit because I needed to make sure that the sacrifice on g6 didn't work. Because after pawn takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, it's very, very close to a perpetual. But I can get out because after king h8, if he tries to check me, he cannot go to h6 because of my queen. So now I can bring my king out and no perpetual. And I have 2 extra minor pieces and an extra pawn to boot. That being said, this position is a little bit scary. But he cannot play rook b3 to bring his rook over because of my knight here. And yeah, it looks a little bit scary, but it should be totally fine for me. Like even like rook a1, for example, I could maybe even play rook c1. Because if rook takes, then bishop takes. And I'm probably doing fine here, most likely. And if rook takes, then check here. And probably bishop takes. Still have to be worried about some checks in this position. But I'm probably doing fine. I'm probably doing fine. Because now if he checks me again, I can just go here. Yeah, this is probably good for me. Okay. So I had to make sure the sacrifice on g6 didn't work. And he just plays queen e2. So he doesn't sacrifice, which is, it wouldn't have worked anyways. And I play bishop d6, moving my bishop off of the edge of the board. And now if he moves his knight, well, he doesn't have that many squares for his knight. If he tries to go here, for example, it's just mate. So the most natural move is to go knight f3, getting your knight out of danger and defending your h2 pawn. But now I go knight c4, bringing my knight off the edge of the board. So I think that's a little bit instructive here. Like my 2 pieces are on the edge of the board. So now I centralize them, which makes sense. And now he plays g3, I play queen f6, and now he plays h4. Just trying to launch open towards my king and try to open things up. And, you know, he's losing. He understands that, but he's got to try something. I play knight e5, attacking both the knight and the bishop, so I'm forcing a trade here. He plays knight h2 with the idea to go knight g4 and control the dark squares a little bit more. But now I take his bishop and play rook c3, attacking his queen. He counterattacks my queen, and I accept the trade because after king g7, his knight has nowhere to go. Knight d7 might be okay, but after rook d8, knight b6, and probably bishop here. The knight is trapped on b6. So he goes knight g4, but that is just the same amount of losing because of bishop takes g3, with the idea that after pawn takes is rook takes g3, forking the knight and the king. And this is what actually happens in the game. And I'm up 5 pawns, or 6 pawns, which is very good. I like being up 6 pawns. And I convert it from here. I put my rook on the open file. I give up one of my pawns and put my rook on the 7th rank just to prevent any counterplay. He can't double up on my f pawn. I just want to prevent all and any counterplay here. So then he doubles up, but I just push my pawn, and I push my pawn, and he resigns. So overall, I feel like I played a pretty okay game. I think in, what was it? It was in this position. I really think he probably should have just played c4, and we would have had a very interesting game. I'm not sure what he didn't like about it, but instead he played queen e1, a weird move, and then once again, he might be able to play c4 now even as well. Although in this case, he cannot. It's not as good because after pawn takes, he cannot take with his pawn because the bishop on b2 is hanging. So he has to take back with the bishop because if he takes back with the knight, then the b3 pawn is hanging and everything's hanging. So you have to take back with the bishop, which is not nearly as good as taking back with the pawn here, if possible. But maybe this was a way to go. I mean, even here, I still have such easy play, and I'm still definitely winning, or still definitely better in this position for sure. But yeah, no, it goes from bad to worse for him, and yeah, I think I played an overall nice game, and yeah, I think that's it. So I enter round 4 with 2 wins and 1 loss, and Still feeling pretty good about my chess. The short time control game in 30 is kind of stressful because I get really low on time a lot, but I made it work this time around. But I think that's everything. I will hit the game view, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.